Okay, hi everyone. Let's take a look at this accounts receivable problem where we're asked to compute the allowance in doubtful accounts and what adjustments need to be made. So we're using the allowance method. Okay, the problem appears in the box right here in front of you. In 2007, the AAA company had net credit sales of 750,000. On January 1st of 2007, allowance for doubtful accounts had a credit balance of 16,000. During 2007, 30,000 of uncollectible accounts receivable were written off, and past experience indicates that the allowance should be 10% of the balance in receivables, so we're using the percentage of receivables basis. If the accounts receivable balance at December 31st was 200,000, what's the required adjustment to the allowance for doubtful accounts at December 31st? Okay, well, let's figure out what's given. First off, we know that the 16,000 in doubtful accounts is given. We don't know the beginning balance of the year, but we do know, and I've worked this ahead of time, so I'm just going to turn my fonts into a color that you can see so you can see it. Okay, so we do know at the end of the year we have 200,000 in accounts receivable, given right above my mouse there. Okay, during the year, 30,000 of uncollectible accounts were written off. So let's see if we can book the current year entries. I think this one does it. Hang on one second here. I got one more row to show. Okay, so if we look here, we see that during the year, and the dates are unknown, we were using the allowance method, so we debit allowance for bad debts, 30,000. We credit accounts receivable. Now when we post that, we get the following entries. Okay, we would have the credit to accounts receivable showing up there, right? And these are T accounts representing the general ledger, and the debit to the allowance accounts showing up there. Okay, so what that means is we need to get to the next step. The next step says the allowance should be 10% of the ending balance. So right here we need to compute what that ending balance should be. What I'm going to do is type this in, and now I'll hit the F2 key so you can see it. You can either look here or look to the left of my mouse right here. And you see what I've done is I've taken the value in cell B12, the accounts receivable balance, times 10%. Okay, so with that said, we know that we have to wind up with $20,000. So now, we started off with 16, then we had debits of 30,000, so we're in a net debit position. We simply have to find the unknown that gets us to a 20,000 balance. And the way we do that is you take the H12, I'm sorry, the way you do it is it's going to be a $14,000 credit. Let me type in how I would do this myself. I see I was referencing an error in a cell. All right, what we know is we have 20,000, and before this we have a balance of equal to debit 30,000 minus 16,000, right? So I've got 14,000 of a debit balance. So if I've got a 14,000 of a debit balance and I got to get to 20,000, then I've got to take the 14,000 plus the 20,000. And that gives me a credit of 34,000. And to prove that, we'll just go ahead and we'll do a little proof. Let me show that so we can see that. We would say equal 16,000 minus 30,000 plus 34,000. If we did it correct, we equal 20,000. Now, since that number equals that number, we know we've done it correctly. So the answer we're looking for is the 34,000. We would need to make an adjustment to the allowance account for 34,000. And the entry that you would make, let me slide up a little bit. Let me just copy this here just for the formatting. The entry that we would make is we would record a debit to bad debt expense at the end of the year equal to that 34,000, and we would credit the allowance account. Let me indent that a little bit so it looks right, equal to that same $34,000, and that entry would be made at the end of the year. So let me copy this here. Okay? And I know you can't see that when I slide up, but that takes care of this problem, everyone. Thank you.